Back at his command, Steiner gathers his officers once more. The atmosphere is tense, but different now, less uncertainty, more anticipation. They know something has changed. Steiner stands before them, his posture firm but his expression reflective. "We have been given an order," he begins. "An order that would send every man here to his death, for no purpose." He pauses, letting the words settle. "I will not carry it out." A murmur ripples through the room. Some officers look relieved, others anxious. Steiner continues, his tone steady. "From this moment forward, our mission changes. We protect civilians. We avoid unnecessary combat. We move west." One officer hesitates. "Herr General, this is defiance." Steiner meets his gaze. "No. This is responsibility. Orders are issued quickly. Units are reorganized. Patrols are reassigned, not to attack, but to escort. Defensive positions are maintained only where absolutely necessary. For the first time in months, the objective is not destruction, but preservation. And in a collapsing world, that choice feels almost revolutionary. Steiner's forces begin moving at dawn, not toward the front lines, but alongside the endless streams of civilians fleeing westward. The roads are choked with wagons, bicycles, and people on foot, old men leaning on sticks, mothers carrying infants wrapped in blankets, children dragging small bags filled with the last pieces of their lives. The war has stripped everything down to its most basic truth: survival. German soldiers, once instruments of an advancing war machine, now walk quietly among civilians. Some carry injured refugees, others distribute their already limited rations. There is no glory here, no speeches, no ideology, only exhaustion and a fragile sense of shared humanity. A young soldier approaches Steiner as they march. "Herr General, are we still fighting?" Steiner looks ahead at the column stretching into the horizon. "We are," he replies after a pause. "Just not the way we were told to." In the distance, artillery flashes remind them that the war is still closing in. But within this moving column, something has changed. The line between soldier and civilian begins to blur, replaced by a single, silent goal: to reach safety before everything collapses behind them. As Steiner's column advances, whispers spread among the ranks. Other SS units, still loyal to the collapsing regime, are enforcing discipline with brutal efficiency. Reports arrive of summary executions, officers shot for retreating, soldiers hanged for desertion. The system is devouring itself in its final moments. A messenger arrives under cover of dusk, his uniform dirty, his face pale with urgency. He delivers the warning quietly: Steiner has been officially declared insubordinate. Orders have been issued for his arrest if encountered. The officers gather again, tension rising. "We may be attacked by our own forces," one of them says. Steiner nods, already aware of the possibility. "Then we avoid them. We do not engage unless there is no other choice." The danger has multiplied. It is no longer a simple retreat from the enemy, it is a delicate navigation through chaos, where loyalty and survival are now in direct conflict. That night, the column moves without lights. Every sound feels amplified: the crunch of boots, the distant rumble of engines, the occasional cry of a child quickly hushed. Steiner walks at the front, fully aware that every decision he makes could determine whether hundreds live or die by morning. The Red Army pushes forward with unstoppable momentum. Entire regions fall within hours as tanks roll across fields and villages with mechanical certainty. Resistance, where it exists, is brief and often meaningless. Steiner observes from a ridge as Soviet armor advances in the distance. Through binoculars, he sees the scale of the force, rows of tanks, supported by infantry, moving like a tide that cannot be turned. An officer beside him mutters, "We cannot stop that." Steiner lowers the binoculars. "We won't try." Instead, he orders a withdrawal route adjusted to avoid direct contact. Scouts are sent ahead to identify gaps in Soviet movements. It is no longer about holding ground, it is about slipping through the cracks of a closing net. Occasionally, small clashes erupt when paths cross unexpectedly. Shots are fired, brief and chaotic, but Steiner quickly pulls his men back before losses escalate. The objective remains clear: avoid becoming another pointless stand in a war that has already decided its outcome. Not all within Steiner's command accept the new reality. One evening, a group of officers confronts him. Their leader, rigid and unyielding, speaks with controlled anger. "We swore loyalty. What you are doing, this is betrayal." The room grows tense. Several soldiers watch silently, unsure which side to align with. Steiner does not raise his voice. "Loyalty to what?" he asks. To an order that leads nowhere? To a command that no longer understands reality? The officer responds sharply, to the Führer. Steiner steps closer, his tone steady but firm. "The Führer is not here. These men are." He gestures toward the soldiers outside. "They are real. Their lives are real. That is where my loyalty lies." Silence follows. The argument is not resolved, but something shifts. Doubt begins to replace certainty. The divide within the ranks does not disappear, but it weakens. And in its place grows a reluctant understanding: obedience without purpose is no longer strength, it is destruction. As night falls, the column moves through a dense forest to avoid detection. The air is cold, damp, and unervingly quiet. Suddenly, a faint sound breaks the silence, whispering, followed by a soft cry. Soldiers halt, weapons raised. A patrol investigates and soon returns with a group of children, thin, terrified. No adults, no belongings, nothing but fear in their eyes. "They've been hiding here," a soldier explains. "For days, maybe longer." Steiner kneels slightly, lowering himself to their level. He says nothing at first, simply meeting their gaze. One officer whispers, "We don't have supplies for this." Steiner stands. "We make room." The children are brought into the column. Soldiers share what little food they have, offering bread, water, even pieces of chocolate saved for emergencies. That night, the forest feels less hostile. Around small, carefully hidden fires, the presence of the children changes something intangible. For a brief moment, the war feels distant. And in that moment, humanity quietly reasserts itself. Communication lines begin to fail completely. Radios crackle with static or fall silent altogether. Messages from Berlin stop arriving. The chain of command, once rigid and absolute, disintegrates into fragments. Steiner gathers what remains of his senior officers. "We are on our own now," he says plainly. No one argues. The reality is obvious. There are no more orders, only decisions. Maps are updated with incomplete information. Scouts report inconsistent enemy movements. Every choice must be made with uncertainty. Yet, paradoxically, there is clarity. Without external pressure, Steiner's objective remains unchanged: protect the column, move west, avoid unnecessary loss. The burden, however, is immense. There is no one left to blame, no higher authority to defer to. Every consequence now rests entirely on him. And he accepts it without hesitation. The path west is cut by a wide river. Bridges have been destroyed, some by retreating German forces, others by advancing Soviets. The column halts at the bank, uncertainty spreading quickly. Engineers inspect the area and identify a narrow crossing point. It is risky, exposed, and time-consuming. Steiner makes the decision. We cross tonight. Under darkness, the operation begins. Makeshift rafts are constructed. Ropes are stretched across the current. Soldiers wade into freezing water, guiding civilians step by step. Children are carried on shoulders. The elderly are supported by multiple hands. Every movement is careful, deliberate. At one point, distant gunfire echoes, and everyone freezes. But it fades, and the crossing continues. Hours pass. Slowly, the entire column reaches the other side. Exhausted, soaked, but alive. It is more than a physical crossing, it is a passage away from certain destruction. Not everyone makes it. A small group is separated during the crossing. Others are lost in brief encounters along the. Each loss is felt deeply. Steiner receives reports quietly, his expression unchanged, but the weight accumulates. He knows every decision has consequences, even the right ones. A soldier approaches him. "Herr General, did we do the right thing?" Steiner takes a moment before answering. "We did the only thing that gave them a chance." There is no triumph in his voice. Only acceptance. The column continues, smaller now, but still moving. Still surviving. News reaches them through scattered sources: Adolf Hitler is dead. Berlin has fallen. The war in Europe is effectively over. The announcement spreads quietly. There are no cheers, no celebrations, only a subdued acknowledgement that the world they knew has ended. Some soldiers sit in silence, processing the collapse. Others simply continue walking, as if nothing has changed. For Steiner, the news confirms what he already understood. The decision he made was not just justified, it was inevitable. The Reich is gone. But the people with him are still alive. And that is what matters. Eventually, they encounter American forces. The moment is tense but calm. Weapons are lowered slowly. Hands are raised. No shots are fired. An American officer steps forward, cautious but composed. He looks at the column, soldiers mixed with civilians, children among them. "This is unusual," he remarks. Steiner steps forward. "The war is over for us." The officer studies him briefly, then nods. It is. There is no dramatic confrontation, no final stand, only a quiet end. The men are disarmed. The civilians are separated and given aid. For the first time in months, there is no immediate danger. Years later, the war becomes history, analyzed, debated, remembered. Names are recorded, actions documented, narratives shaped. Some figures are remembered for destruction, others for blind loyalty. But a few stand apart, not for what they did, but for what they refused to do. Felix Steiner's decision is not widely celebrated. It does not fit easily into the grand narratives of victory or defeat. Yet, in the lives that continued, in the children who grew up, in the families that survived, in the soldiers who returned home, his choice endures quietly. History often focuses on power and outcomes. But sometimes, its most meaningful moments are defined by restraint. By the decision to step away from inevitable destruction. By the courage to say no, when everyone else says obey. Berlin, April 1945. The city no longer resembles a capital, it is a graveyard of stone and fire. Buildings stand hollow, their windows shattered like empty eyes staring into oblivion. The constant thunder of Soviet artillery rolls through the streets, shaking the ground with every impact. Smoke rises endlessly, turning the sky into a suffocating gray veil. Deep beneath the ruins, inside the Führerbunker, tension coils like a tightening wire. Adolf Hitler, physically diminished yet mentally trapped in delusion, studies maps that no longer reflect reality. Entire divisions he references have already been destroyed. Still, he speaks of victory. Messengers move quickly, carrying desperate orders to commanders across what remains of the Reich. Among them is SS General Felix Steiner. His name still carries weight, discipline, precision, reliability. But even Steiner cannot command what no longer exists. Far from Berlin, Steiner receives the message. He reads it carefully, his expression unreadable. Around him, his officers wait, sensing the gravity of the moment. Outside, columns of refugees move along broken roads, families dragging what little they have left. Steiner folds the paper slowly. He understands something Berlin refuses to accept: the war is over. Inside a dimly lit command post, Steiner spreads a worn map across the table. Red arrows, representing Soviet forces, close in from all sides, forming an iron ring around Berlin. His own units are marked in faint pencil, scattered, fragmented, barely holding together. An officer steps forward, voice tense. "Herr General, if we attack, we won't even reach their lines." Another adds, "We have no fuel, limited ammunition, and half the men are wounded or missing." The order from Hitler is absolute: launch an immediate counterattack to break the encirclement. But the reality before Steiner is undeniable. This is not a military maneuver, it is a death sentence. Steiner walks slowly around the table, studying each position. He knows his men. He has seen their exhaustion, their fear, their quiet acceptance that the end is near. Outside, distant explosions echo. A child cries somewhere among the refugee columns passing nearby. Steiner stops. His voice, when it comes, is calm but heavy. "This attack will not happen." Silence fills the room. The officers exchange glances, unsure whether they have just witnessed courage, or treason. Steiner looks at them directly. "We are soldiers, not sacrifices." In Berlin, time stretches painfully inside the bunker. Hours pass, then more. Hitler expects news, confirmation that Steiner's attack has begun. That salvation is on its way. But nothing comes. Officers shift uneasily as reports begin to trickle in. Fragmented messages. Delays. Confusion. Finally, the truth emerges: Steiner has not advanced. The room freezes. Hitler's face tightens, then contorts with rage. He slams his fist onto the table, his voice rising into a furious outburst. Accusations fly: betrayal, cowardice, conspiracy. The illusion that has sustained him begins to crack. Steiner was supposed to attack. Steiner was supposed to save Berlin, he shouts. No one dares respond. Around him, generals stand in silence, many already aware of what Hitler refuses to admit: the war is irreversibly lost. Steiner's refusal is not the cause of defeat, it is merely its acknowledgement. But in that bunker, reality is the enemy. And Steiner has just become one too.